Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Captain America, the First Avenger. Captain America, the First Avenger, released in 2011, directed by Joe Johnston. Steve Rogers, a rejected military soldier, transforms into Captain America after taking a dose of a super soldier serum. But being Captain America comes at a price, as he attempts to take down a warmonger and a terrorist organization. Now, as all of you know by now, if you've seen my channel a bunch, I love Marvel. I'm a big Marvel guy, and it is always hard for me to remove my Marvel bias when it comes to these movies. But this one honestly surprised me. I've seen this movie plenty of times. I've never seen it from a reviewer's eyes. This movie is actually way better than I remembered it. So without further ado, let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, this movie is an origin story of Captain America, Steve Rogers, obviously the First Avenger, as it says in the title. And I think it's a really good origin story. I mean, it starts off from the beginning when he is just a small dude that wants to do big things but doesn't have the opportunity until he was given the opportunity. So when it comes to an actual story and plot to follow, it has a really good one. It has intense moments. It has an ending that's actually worth the wait to see. So overall, plot-wise, I think it's really well written. The second essential aspect is attraction. Now, obviously, to Marvel people, this is very attractive. It is one of the more legendary heroes. Seeing them for the first time on the big screen, I remember how awesome it was. So that kind of attraction it definitely has. And concept-wise, I think it does have a really good concept, seeing this superhero that is really just a human, not any kind of mythical beings or people from space, just a regular dude, a regular soldier that obviously got buffed with the super soldier serum, but seeing this story from a human's point of view is always more interesting. Like Iron Man, for example, and Batman too, just any human that takes steps to becoming a hero without really having superpowers. Of course, Captain America is a little different, but either way, those stories are always more interesting to me than someone that just has superpowers from the start and now he just decides to be a hero. So concept-wise, I think this is very attractive, and same with entertainment-wise, since it is a superhero movie. The third essential aspect is theme. The size of the heart is way more important than the size of the man, as was proven in this movie, as was quoted in this movie by Dr. Erskine. It is just definitely the theme that they were trying to bring upon the audience. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. I thought the dialogue in this movie was really good. All the conversations felt real. There wasn't any halfway decent dialogue. It was all at least decent. And especially between Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter, the chemistry they had was unbelievable. It definitely felt real. It definitely felt like they had literal chemistry when it came to them talking to each other. And the most important part of the dialogue that I think was really well done was how Captain America, the way he sounded before he got the super soldier serum, he sounded the same way after. It didn't matter that his body changed, that now he was this big, strong man. He still saw himself as the kid that he was beforehand. And being able to keep the same level of dialogue throughout the whole movie and really convincing the audience that it is still kind of the same person definitely is a big plus for this movie, and it made it feel a lot more real. So this movie is stacked with good actors, and all of them did a good job. There's a few that I wanted to mention in particular. Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. He's obviously the main star of this movie. He is Captain America. He does a great job. I don't even feel like I have to talk about it too much. If you guys have seen the movie, you know he does a really good job. He just is that character. He knows how to put himself into those boots and be Captain America. Haley Atwell, who played Peggy, same thing for her. She knew exactly how to play the part correctly. She knew how to have those emotions that Peggy had throughout this movie to make it feel more real. Tommy Lee Jones, who played Colonel Phillips, I loved this character. He knew how to be funny at the right moments to get me to laugh. I laughed way more than I thought during this movie. Honestly, I didn't remember it being very funny. It was actually way more funny than I thought. I found myself laughing every 5 minutes. And it is definitely thanks to him. He did a great job with the comedic timing. Hugo Weaving, who played Johann Schmidt, Red Skull, the main villain of this movie, he did a really good job of making me not like him. I did not like the character. I mean, I liked him as the character, but obviously as the bad guy, you want to be hated. He was definitely hated. He did a really good job of being this powerful being, being Red Skull, this menacing guy that's part of the Nazis, and he was very convincing in his role, even with all the Red Skull makeup on. And finally, Dominic Cooper, who played Howard Stark, this young version of Howard Stark, which I really liked. I mean, obviously, when he's a different actor, older in like Endgame, for example, when he had to kind of de-age himself, I definitely prefer Dominic in this role. I think it's also very weird to say someone that has my same name, since Dominic is not a common name. But either way, Dominic Cooper, I think, did a really good job as Howard Stark. He convinced me that he was this, not really playboy, but this ego scientist. He was very funny in this movie. I think he was just a great choice for the character. And everyone else in this movie did really good. Those were just the ones I wanted to mention the most. I feel like they had the biggest impact on the plot and on the movie in general. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. When it came to the visuals, this movie did look good. There were some parts that didn't look as nice as I obviously would hoped, but no movie really has perfect CGI when it comes to some of those moments, so I can't really nail it too hard for that. But when it comes to emotions, the movie did have a lot of scenes that were heavy-hearted. You were emotionally attached to these characters. You wanted everything to turn out well, and obviously not everything did. So I feel like it did okay and pretty good for both of these parts. I just wish it could have been slightly better. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie is 2 hours and 4 minutes long. I think that's a good length. It had a really big story to kind of go through, so it needed all that time to really get through it, especially since it was paced well. It didn't feel like 2 hours to me. It really flew by. So I think due to the pacing, the movie is a perfect length. It could have been shorter, sure. It definitely shouldn't have been longer. It would have been really stretching the story out and kind of throwing in unnecessary bits. But the 2 hour mark is, I feel like, right where this movie needed to be. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. This movie, like all Marvel movies, have a suspenseful, intense soundtrack, have music that are particular to the character. I think it was done well for Captain America, and especially since there was a lot of the 40s music in the background, because that's the era he's from. So I think the soundtrack overall was good, but again, nothing too memorable. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So I feel like it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie was Joe Johnston, and he's previously directed 7 movies. And they were Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jumanji, October Sky, Jurassic Park 3, Hidalgo, and The Wolfman. And other than Jumanji, I haven't seen any of these movies, so I don't really know his experience with a big character like this. But I think this was a great origin story. He definitely directed this really well and made the movie a good start to the Captain America franchise. So there's really no reason why he shouldn't have been directing this. So I think he did a good job. And the 10th essential aspect is time. So this movie is now 14 years old, and I definitely think that it stood the test of time. I mean, it is part of the MCU, which is obviously the biggest superhero movie franchise that exists. So all of the movies are going to be remembered to some extent. But I do feel like this being the origin story of such an important character, and the movie is good on its own as well, I feel like it definitely stood the test of time, and it will definitely continue to. Now, onto the reviews. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it an 80%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 75%, and IMDb gave it a 69%. Now, personally, I agree with Rotten Tomatoes critics 100%. I think it deserves to be an 80. It is up there in the really good movie list. I feel like there is still improvements to be made, especially when it comes to the cinematography. I think the movie could have looked a little better, and there could have been more of an emotional impact. There was a few really good ones, especially the end. The end did get me, and the stuff with Bucky, it all got me. But when it comes to the average viewer, I feel like it wouldn't be as devastating to them as someone that loves Marvel so much. So I had to take them down a few points. But overall, I feel like this movie definitely deserves to be in the 80th percentile. And finally, the rankings. So, in 2011, it's going to be first above X-Men First Class. Both movies are obviously Marvel and are also origin stories. One is obviously of Captain America, and the other one is obviously of the original X-Men. And I personally think that the origin of Captain America was a little bit more interesting and less hectic than the X-Men was. Now, both movies are really good. They both have great origins. They both have great character development. Both have great, even cinematography. Both have good. I just think that the emotional impact that Captain America had, at least to me, was a little bit higher than that movie. And both looked about the same. So it was really just me nitpicking. I just think Captain America would take the cake on this. It was definitely hard. I also think the comedy did help of this movie, that I found myself actually laughing. So it just elevated the movie for me a little bit. In the 2010s, it's going to be 8th, again above X-Men First Class and below Logan. Now, Logan is one of those movies where it is a great superhero movie. It is the finale to that character, and the emotional impact it has is crazy. The cinematography in that movie is just such a big leap from most other Marvel movies. There's obviously a few that are way higher than Logan, but it's among that conversation. It is one of those movies where you get so invested in the character, especially after seeing him for so many films, that it has an emotional impact. You feel terrible about some of the things that happen in this movie, and you want everything to work out. You don't want this character to leave, but obviously he does. So I have to say, due to the cinematography lack thereof in Captain America, the First Avenger, I'm going to have to put Logan over it, because both are great superhero films. One is the start, one is the beginning, one is the end, and the cinematography just had to take the cake on that for Logan. And in all time, it's going to be 17th, again above X-Men First Class and below Logan. I explained why it's between these two for the past 2 times, so I'm not going to waste your time anymore with that. That's all I have for Captain America, the First Avenger. If you guys like this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. I'm going to be starting to push out a little more Marvel movies now that I am back in the groove of things, because I haven't seen them in a little bit, and obviously I used to watch them religiously, but because I want to fit in a lot of new movies, I'm not going to be doing it as often. So I'm going to throw in a few Marvel movies here and there, just so I can still get my fix in, and because I do want to, especially the Captain America movies, I want to finish them before Captain America A New World comes out. I want to refresh my mind with all these movies, so when I see that one, I can do a better review of the movie itself. But either way, if you guys want to see someone that does the same kind of review as me, with the same rankings and reviews and the 10 essential aspects, check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He is the one that helped me start this. It was his idea that I should try it out because he was already doing it. Definitely go show him your support and your love, especially since if you like mine, you're going to like his. He just has a different point of view of mine. His link will always be in my description. I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.